Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. Today, we're going way back to explore the foundations of traditional Chinese medicine.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we're talking about the Yellow Emperor's classic of internal medicine,
Oh, okay.
specifically Chapter 11, which sets the stage for understanding how this ancient system views the body.
It's a fascinating chapter. It really lays out the core principles of TCM, like the concept of Zang Fu,
Yeah.
the importance of the stomach, and how your pulse reveals so much about your internal health.
All right, so let's start with this Zhang Fu thing. It's a bit like learning a whole new language, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in this chapter, the Yellow Emperor is asking his physician, Qibo, to explain the differences between Zhang organs and Fu organs.
Right, and Qibo dives in by explaining that the Zang organs are all about storing vital essence. Think heart, lungs, spleen, liver, and kidneys. They're considered more yin in nature, associated with the earth element, and their main job is to hold on to and regulate these precious substances.
Okay, so they're like the body's internal treasure chests,
Wow.
holding onto the good stuff.
Exactly. Then you have the Fu, which are a bit more complex. Qibo divides them into two groups.
Oh, okay.
The first group is the extraordinary Fu. The brain, marrow, bones, vessels, gallbladder, and specifically for women, the womb. Like the Zang organs, they're also formed from earthly qi and are focused on storage.
So are they storing the same kind of essence as the Zhang organs?
Good question. They are storing essence, but in a slightly different way.
Okay.
Think of the Zang organs as constantly replenishing and circulating that vital essence like reservoirs. The extraordinary Fu, on the other hand, safeguard essential substances over the long term, more like vaults.
Ah, that makes sense. Okay, so what about the second group of Fu? What makes them so different?
Qibo calls the second group the transport and transformation Fu. These are the movers and shakers. They include the stomach, large and small intestines, the triple burner.
Interesting.
That's a unique TCM concept we could explore another time, and the bladder.
So if the first group are the vaults, are these guys like the delivery trucks, moving things around and keeping things flowing?
A perfect analogy. These Fu are definitely more active, more yang in nature. Their job is to process, transform, and ultimately eliminate, making sure nothing gets stuck.
This is where it gets really interesting for me, because Qibo makes this distinction that the Zhang organs are filled with essence, but not with physical matter, whereas the Fu are full when they're processing something but not holding on to it long term. What does that even mean in a practical sense?
It's a key difference. The Zang are like wells of energy, consistently being replenished but never overflowing. The Fu, on the other hand, are constantly in flux, filling and emptying as they process food and fluids, like rivers.
Okay, so to help me wrap my head around this, is it like when you eat, your stomach is full in the Fu sense because it's actively digesting food, but once the food moves on, the stomach is empty again?
Precisely. The intestines then become full as they continue the process, but they too eventually empty as waste is eliminated. And this constant cycle of filling and emptying driven by the Fu is vital for keeping the entire system in balance.
So it's a beautiful dance between the Zhang storing and the Fu processing.
Absolutely. The Zang provide the fundamental essence that powers the Fu, and in turn, the Fu break things down and transform them to nourish the Zang. They depend on each other.
Okay, so this is where the Yellow Emperor throws a curveball. He asks Qibo why the pulse at the wrist is considered the main indicator of the health of all 5 Zhang organs. Now, I know a bit about TCM, but I've always wondered about that connection.
It's a great question, and it leads to one of the most poetic concepts in TCM, the stomach, as the sea of water and grains. Qibo explains that the stomach is where everything we eat and drink gets broken down, and the energy or qi from that food is then distributed throughout the body.
So it's like all the good stuff from our food gets concentrated in this sea, and then that nourishing energy gets sent out to the Zhang organs like a current.
Exactly. Which is why feeling the pulse at the wrist, specifically on what's called the Tayin channel, one of the main pathways of energy flow in TCM, is like checking the current of that energetic river flowing from the stomach outward to all the Zhang organs.
Wait, so that tiny pulse point on my wrist can tell me about the health of my liver, my heart, my lungs?
It can. Qibo even gives a very specific example. He says that the nose reflects imbalances in the heart and lungs. So if you're having respiratory issues, for example, you might see signs of it in the appearance or function of your nose. It's a subtle but profound connection.
Wow, that's incredible. And kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. So next time I have a cold, I'll be paying extra close attention to my nose.
It's a great way to start seeing the interconnectedness of the body through the lens of TCM. Seemingly distant parts can actually reveal a lot about the internal state of the Zhang Fu.
Okay, so we've talked about the Zang Fu, the stomach as this sea of energy, and the pulse as a window into the health of the organs. But chapter 11 doesn't stop there, does it?
Not at all. This is where things take a bit of a philosophical turn. The text emphasizes that treating an illness effectively in TCM requires understanding not only the physical symptoms, but also the patient's mental and spiritual state.
So it's not just about fixing the physical body, it's about understanding the whole person.
Exactly. It's a truly holistic approach, and one that's really resonated with me. It speaks to the depth of this ancient medical system.
And there's this one line in the chapter that really made me pause. Those who fear needles and stones cannot discuss the highest skills of treatment. What do you make of that? It seems like there's a deeper meaning there, right?
It's a fascinating line, and it definitely suggests there's more to healing than just the physical techniques. Perhaps it's hinting at a need for openness to the subtle energies at play, a willingness to accept the limitations of purely physical interventions. It's a bit of a mystery, but a compelling one.
And that leads to the last point in the chapter, which is the idea that some illnesses might be beyond treatment. Now, I know that might sound a little fatalistic, but I think it's actually a really profound statement. It is profound. I think it speaks to the humility of traditional Chinese medicine, acknowledging that we don't have all the answers, and sometimes the best approach is acceptance rather than forcing a cure.
It's a powerful concept and one that I think modern medicine could learn from, recognizing that there are limits to our understanding and that sometimes accepting those limits can be more beneficial than striving for a cure that might not exist.
It makes you realize that healing isn't always about conquering. Sometimes it's about adapting. And that shift in perspective can be incredibly freeing.
Absolutely. It allows us to focus on what we can control, cultivating balance and harmony within the body, mind, and spirit, even in the face of challenging circumstances.
I love that. So going back to that line about fearing needles and stones, what do you think it means in the context of this idea of acceptance and the limits of treatment?
That's a really insightful connection. I think it's suggesting that fear can limit our understanding and prevent us from exploring the full potential of healing. If we're afraid of certain tools or techniques, we might miss out on valuable opportunities for growth and transformation.
It's like we're closing ourselves off to a whole world of possibilities because of fear. And that fear might stem from a lack of understanding or even a resistance to accepting the existence of those subtle energies that TCM focuses on.
Precisely. It's a reminder that being open to new ideas and approaches can open up new avenues for healing. And sometimes the most profound healing happens when we surrender to what is, rather than trying to force things to be different.
Which brings us back to the core principles of TCM. The interconnectedness of everything, the importance of treating the whole person, and recognizing the limits of our understanding.
It's a beautiful system, isn't it? So much wisdom packed into these ancient texts.
Absolutely. And what I find so fascinating is that even though these ideas are thousands of years old, they still feel incredibly relevant today. I mean, think about the concept of the Zang and Fu and their connection to the elements. That framework helps us understand how different organ systems interact and how imbalances in one area can have ripple effects throughout the entire body.
It's a brilliant model. For example, if someone is dealing with digestive issues like bloating or irregular bowel movements, a TCM practitioner wouldn't just focus on the stomach and intestines. They would consider the health of the spleen, which in TCM is associated with the earth element and plays a vital role in digestion and nutrient absorption.
Right. And they might also look at the liver, which is connected to the wood element and can impact the smooth flow of qi throughout the body. If liver qi is stagnant, it can disrupt digestion and lead to all sorts of other symptoms.
Exactly. It's about understanding the body as a complex ecosystem where each part influences the others. And that's where the idea of treating the whole person becomes so crucial.
It makes so much sense. And I think that's something that can get lost in modern medicine, where the focus is often on treating the symptoms rather than addressing the root cause of the imbalance.
It's a valid point, and that's why I think it's so valuable to have these different perspectives. TCM offers a rich tradition of knowledge and techniques that can complement and enhance modern medical practices.
It's about finding what works best for each individual and integrating the wisdom of both ancient and modern healing systems.
And that's why I love these deep dives. They give us the opportunity to expand our understanding of the body and explore all the different possibilities for maintaining health and well-being.
And to appreciate the wisdom of those who came before us. Their insights can still guide us on our own journeys of healing and discovery.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that even though medical knowledge continues to evolve, There's still so much we can learn from these ancient traditions.
Speaking of learning, I'd love to hear what's resonating most with you from this chapter. What are your key takeaways?
For me, it's the emphasis on interconnectedness, the idea that every part of the body is linked, and that true healing requires addressing the whole person, body, mind, and spirit, is something that I think we can all benefit from remembering.
I agree. It's such a powerful reminder that we're not just a collection of isolated parts, but a complex, integrated system. When one part is out of balance, it affects the whole.
And that concept goes beyond just our physical health. It applies to our relationships, our communities, even our relationship with the planet. We are all part of a larger interconnected web.
It really is a beautiful way to view the world. So, as we wrap up our deep dive into this chapter of the Yellow Emperor's Classic, I'm curious, what are you left pondering? What's sticking with you the most from this exploration?
I think for me, it's that final idea we were discussing, the concept that some illnesses might be beyond treatment.
Yeah.
It's a humbling reminder that even with all of our modern medical advancements, there are still mysteries we haven't solved and limits to what we can control.
It's a perspective that invites a lot of introspection, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It makes you think about the balance between striving for healing and accepting what is.
Absolutely. And I think it ties back to the idea of approaching healing with both wisdom and humility, recognizing that we're always learning and that there's always more to discover.
So to leave you with a final thought inspired by this chapter, what do you think are the limits of treatment in modern medicine? And how does that concept relate to the idea of some illnesses being beyond cure in traditional Chinese medicine? Something to ponder as you continue your own deep dive into the fascinating world of health and healing.
What a great question to consider. It really challenges us to think about our own beliefs and assumptions about health, healing, and the limits of our understanding.
Until next time, happy exploring.